Welcome back. You're watching Beyond with me, Mohammed Saleh. This is the continuous coverage of the situation that is presently unfolding at the border between India and China, where the Indian Army has confirmed that there has been a violent face-off with China. India has confirmed loss of lives on the Indian side. 3 Indian soldiers are said to have lost their lives in this incident that has taken place at the India-China border. An officer and also 2 soldiers from the Indian side reportedly have lost their lives in this particular incident. And we've also got reactions that are coming in from the Chinese side. The Chinese Foreign Ministry has said that they are at this point of time unaware of what has happened at the border. This is what the Chinese are claiming. But according to reports that have come in, 3 Indian soldiers are said to have lost their lives, including 1 Indian officer. China has asked India to not take any unilateral action or escalate the situation. This is what the Chinese have officially, in fact, said in the statement, claiming that they do not know what has happened. But there was an incident that took place yesterday night. It took place near the Galwan Valley. The exact sequence of events as to what may have led to this escalation is still not very clear. But 3 Indian soldiers, including an Indian officer, we're given to understand, have lost their lives in this face-off between the Indian and the Chinese forces. Remember, the India-China border, the line of actual control had been, by and large, very peaceful. Not a single bullet had been fired since 1967. But this is the first time that there has been a loss of life in an incident that has taken place between the India-China border at the line of actual control. All right, and to give us more perspective in terms of what's in fact happening at the border, we're joined in by Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. So let me begin by asking you this. This is some disturbing news that has come in from the India-China border, where we're given to understand that 3 Indian soldiers, including 1 officer, have lost their lives in an incident that has taken place yesterday night. What more do we know of this at this point of time?
Well, at this point of time, the details are sketchy, so therefore one has to be very careful in coming to any conclusion. If this has happened, and there are indications that this has happened, it is a most unfortunate development. And what I find counterintuitive is that how can such a thing happen at the time of de-escalation? If you are confronting each other, then something could go awry. But if you are pulling back and de-escalating, withdrawing your troops, how can it happen? I think that we need to wait a little to get clarity. But it was something which was, if it has happened, it was waiting to happen because of the way Chinese forces had pitched themselves along the LSE indicatively, or according to media reports, perhaps on our side of LSE, they had come in numbers, they had come with heavy equipment, and the timing was ominous. Right. So I am afraid that we are in for a situation that we did not want.
Now, you're very measured in the words that you're taking in describing the situation in terms of what has happened. You know, what we can at this point of time confirm from what we are learning is that 3 Indian military personnel, including 1 officer, has lost his life in this, what is being described as an incident. And what you also, said very rightly, at a time when the 2 nations were escalating after the standoff, an incident like this must not have happened ideally, because the talks were ongoing between India and China. What do you think could have resulted in this? Is this a one-off kind of a case that has happened inadvertently? Can that happen? Can something like this happen inadvertently? Or is this a clear tactical kind of an operation, something that's been attempted here?
Well, I'm hoping and praying that it happened inadvertently, and if there is a cogent reason first of all, I mean, it's very, very unfortunate that there has been a loss of brave Indian lives. But if it has been inadvertent and that can be established, well, that would be a bit of a relief. Mm-hmm. I am afraid it doesn't look like inadvertent.
Right.
It does not sound right. And, and I'll substantiate, it's not that we have just had an agreement of CBMs or, to have flag meetings in a hot border. We have been having this arrangement for the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. We have diffused so many standoffs.
Right.
There has been an escalation by the Chinese side since 2013. Even Doklam was diffused through dialogue, through flag meetings, mill-to-mill talks, diplomatic level talks, and so on. So it is not something which would happen without a provocation. Now, why it was done, who allowed that, these are weighty questions that need to be answered. And the scale of Chinese build-up was such that I was very afraid, and I had written about it also, that something like, that it was not normal. And what worries me even more and worried me is that this juncture that we are in, mm-hmm. the world is in, we are still in the throes of coronavirus. China's stock has taken a beating, image has taken a beating. Why are they flexing their muscles all over? This is the time when any normal country would like to build, strengthen borders, relationships with other countries, not engage in hostilities. So it seems that there is more to it than meets the eye.
There's more to it than meets the eye. And the obvious question that now arises is there were military and diplomatic talks that were underway between India and China. So what happens to these talks now?
Well, they will continue because there is a saying that where diplomacy ends, conflict begins. You do not want conflict. I would still hope that it is not in China's interest also to engage in hostilities with India, and not in India's interest, certainly. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, India is not a pushover. We are not expansionists. We do not covet anybody's land. We want to have a working relationship with China, but we are not a pushover. So we are determined to protect what is ours and thwart any Chinese attempts at misadventurism. But it takes two to tango, and I hope that this better sense prevails, or both sides take a measured view. Do not engage in an escalatory posture, because it will be in nobody's interest. But we need to get to the bottom of the matter, mm-hmm. because you cannot allow a situation where Indian personnel lose their lives. Right. And by the way, Chinese denials means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. They will deny everything. But right. The bottom line is what happens on ground and what is our assessment. But again, WION is one of the channels which has always taken a very measured position. And I'm very happy that we are putting things in perspective instead of getting into any rhetoric which could further inflame passions.
Absolutely, indeed. That is correct, Ambassador. We at WION will ensure that only the facts are reported, only the things that are happening on the ground are reported, and there is no empty speculation that is bandied around as news. Meanwhile, there is some breaking news that is just coming in, where Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has held a meeting with the Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat and the 3 service chiefs, and also with Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar. The developments in Ladakh, we're given to understand, have been discussed in this meeting by the Defence Minister. Ambassador, if I can ask you to weigh in a bit in terms of the Chinese reaction, where in fact, the first Chinese reaction from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in China, they said that they were unaware of this incident that has happened at the border that's taken place yesterday night. Do you buy into that?
Well, that is standard Chinese reaction. If you have to believe them, their levels of ignorance would be very high. But no, it doesn't. Life does not happen like this. I'm not saying that the Foreign Office is in regular touch with the RPLA, and they are kept posted minute to minute. But the point is that if we look at the origins, an intrusion of this scale, magnitude, timing could not happen without the nod from the top. And it has to go to the very top for this to happen. And obviously, the system was very much in the loop.
Right.
And if you want to buy time, if you want to wait till details emerge, or you want to wait for the reactions from other places, capitals, countries, your adversary, you play for time. So no, I don't buy that line that they may or may not know, but the chances of the way the Chinese government functions, Chinese of the Foreign Office knowing that would be high, because this happened yesterday night.
Right.
Or was the day before yesterday night? I think yesterday night, right?
This we're given to understand has happened yesterday night. The information of it has started to only trickle in just a couple of hours ago from now.
That's right.
Now, Ambassador, the fact is...
Since it has been a number of hours, it would be very unusual, in my view, for the Chinese Foreign Office not to be in the loop.
That is true. And also considering the fact that just last Saturday, Army Chief General M.M. Naravane had said that disengagement has begun in the Galwan area and both sides are disengaging in a phased manner. This is what General M.M. Naravane said just last Saturday. The disengagement has begun in the Galwan area, and this is precisely the place where this incident has happened. What does this point towards?
Well, there could be multiple objectives. China, it could be internal and external. Externally, China wants to show to the world that they have arrived, that they are the new hegemon. We all know that they want to craft a China-centric world order to displace the US-centric world order, and they do not want India to have the kind of space that India thinks she rightfully has. So China has always tried to keep India off balance, that is one. Now they are flexing their muscles in South China Sea vis-a-vis Taiwan, vis-a-vis Hong Kong. And the timing is something which is rather unusual. Maybe they have perhaps factored in, or their assessment could perhaps be that the US is distracted. They are looking inwards. They are perhaps betting on the fact that countries like US will not walk the talk, as actually President Obama did not in 2012 when the Chinese took over the Scarborough Shoal, and that emboldened China. So similarly, Hong Kong. Now, how has the world reacted to Hong Kong? Sanctions on Hong Kong. What does that mean? It means nothing.
Right.
UK says they will take back Hong Kong citizens who are holding dual passport. Well, thank you very much. So it is basically conveying it to all countries around that, look, beware, you are in our sights. The way China has engaged in wolf warrior diplomacy, calling other countries names, the way it has behaved with Australia,
right,
and other countries is very, very unusual. So here, and then perhaps Xi Jinping also wants to consolidate his position within the country. He wants to come across as a strong man. And they also want to send a message to India that, look, we are capable of causing trouble. So Chinese motives are always obtuse.
Absolutely, indeed, Ambassador. Do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, I'm told that we're also joined in by Professor Swaran Singh, who is a strategic affairs analyst. Professor Singh, this is a major escalation that has taken place between India and China at the line of actual control. We are given to understand that this incident has taken place at the Galwan Valley area, the precise spot from where the two nations were to disengage. And now we're given to understand that there is this incident, that's how it is being described, that has taken place, which has led to the loss of 3 Indian lives. What do you make of this?
I think now we have a formal press release available, which says this face-off was part of disengagement in Galwan Valley. And perhaps casualty has been suffered on both sides. India has confirmed its own casualties, but as yet we have no idea about the casualties on the Chinese side. So apparently, I'm sure at all levels, leaders are in touch with each other right now. In fact, right on the border as also at various other levels.
Professor, if I can just interrupt you there. When you say that the Chinese say that this face-off took place as a part of disengagement between the two forces, what does that even mean?
That's an Indian statement now saying that this happened on Monday night. It was part of disengagement in Galwan Valley, which means the troops that were eyeball to eyeball must be drawing back to specified kilometers backwards. And it is part of that this face-off happened, and Chinese have also suffered casualties, just as India has suffered casualties. India has confirmed its own casualties. We are yet to know what happened on the Chinese side, if they have suffered, how many casualties they have suffered. So apparently the first very sort of disturbing news that came to us about India having suffered, we had no idea how India has suffered. Obviously, created enormous amount of concern. But perhaps both sides are in touch and both sides are saying that they have both suffered. We are still to get a formal information from what the Chinese are saying about their casualties. So India has not confirmed any casualties on Chinese side except saying that both sides have suffered casualties.
But do you see this as a major escalation, Professor Singh? Because an incident like this has perhaps not happened since 1967, that not a single bullet had been fired between the Indians and the Chinese at the LAC. And now, for the first time in several decades, we are reporting casualties at the LAC.
As I mentioned on your channel a little while ago, this is first time after 1967, and the whole pattern was constantly increasing, both the intensity and frequency of aggressions. But nevertheless, from both sides, we had noticed only pushing, shoving, kicking, and stone pelting and things like these. So enormous control on both sides. Both armies are very capable of escalation. But, last 5 to 6 years, even as the number of their, sort of encounters increased, number of aggressions increased, and the kind of troops coming from the Chinese side, that the numbers and the vehicles and the size of those things increased. But in encounters, there was constant keeping it under control, and we had certain tactical level posturing at best at this stage. But this is first time that we have suffered casualties, and there is definitely an increase which is out of the pattern that we have seen for the last 7 to 8 years since President Xi Jinping came to power. There was an increase in that incrementally, but this is really going a little too far that we have had casualties this time. That's not acceptable. That's something really a red line crossing.
Absolutely indeed, Professor. Do continue to stay on with us. Meanwhile, in a statement, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lujian has said, and I quote him here, Indian troops crossed the borderline twice on Monday, provoking and attacking Chinese personnel, resulting in serious physical confrontation between border forces on the two sides. This is what the Chinese are claiming. We expect the Indian side to put forth its official statement on this. The army is expected to hold a press conference in some time from now. We're given to understand at 2 p.m. the army will be holding a press conference. But this is a serious escalation that has taken place. And if I can bring in Ambassador Vishnu Prakash, sir, if you're still with us, this is quite clearly something that neither side, one hopes, would have wanted. The two sides were engaged in both military level and also diplomatic talks. But the loss of life of 3 Indian military personnel clearly points to an escalation that perhaps no one at this point of time had anticipated.
Well, I will not say it was not anticipated, because the build-up, the extent of the build-up, the spread of the build-up, the nature of the aggressive build-up was unprecedented. It has never happened. And after all, when you've got soldiers equipped with heavy equipment, weaponry on an eyeball to eyeball, there is always a chance of something going awry. I think we both sides did quite well to manage it and not to let it degenerate into more than fist fights. Even that was bad. But now that they were de-escalating, Chinese were de-escalating, supposedly pulling back their troops. I mean, I find it difficult to comprehend that India will be provoking them. Why will we do that? They are in our territory. All we are asking is that status quo ante be attained. So why will we do that? There is something missing somewhere. And that is what worries me, because as I mentioned earlier, it is the timing and the motive of the intrusion or the standoff which was pregnant with meanings.
Right.
Why is China doing that? What is their motive? And, their motives are at times not discernible. So that is the difficulty. But it is certainly not in India's interest, nor does India want to escalate. It's hoped that China, despite its track record of needling India through Pakistan on issues of core concern to India, respects the understanding between the successive governments and leadership of keeping the border calm and avoiding any provocation which can escalate into matters which neither side wants.
I think that's an important point that you've made, because India has made its position very clear. What they want is that they want the Chinese soldiers to in fact go back from the territory that they have intruded upon. And Professor Singh, if I can bring you in on this, the fact of the matter is just last Saturday, the Chief of Army Staff, General Naravane, had said the disengagement had begun in the Galwan area. And just a couple of days later, for this incident to have happened, what do you think has gone wrong at this point of time?
I think it is going to be the kind of explanation coming from Chinese. It's on expected lines. This may be part of their damage limitation exercise to say Chinese, were on the other side of LAC and it is Indian troops that crossed. I don't think we need to believe that. If you look at the pattern of aggressions from the Chinese side, their aggressive approach to sort of constantly, browbeating Indian side or attempting to do that is part of that pattern. And in that pattern, it is clearly that I don't think Indian forces would have any reason to cross, particularly when they are disengaging and de-escalating in that situation. So I think it's some kind of, pinpricking that the Chinese wanted to do before they withdraw. I have repeatedly said their strategy is incremental, 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. So they are not going to sort of stop doing this in future. They'll keep nibbling us. They'll keep needling us on various places. But this apparently was an attempt to sort of, before they disengage, do some kind of, enormous psychological damage to Indian side. But as I believe, it is both sides, because Indian army is no less, both sides have suffered casualties. It's not a good thing to say, but it's really not that only Indian side has suffered casualties.
But why do you think the Chinese have been so quiet in terms of any casualties, if any casualties that they have suffered? Why have they not put out a number for it?
I think they will, depending on how India reacts. Let us wait for the Indian side holding the press conference, as you just mentioned, where we'll get the full detail of what happened according to India. That will automatically force Chinese to sort of give their version. We only have an initial statement from their spokesperson at this stage. But Indian side has already said that casualties have happened on both sides. Chinese should confirm it if they want to make sure that this kind of de-escalation happens. And they will have to really say that they also have suffered and give details of their casualties.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not going to, the tempers are going to go up if Chinese are not really coming out with truth as to what has happened on their side.
I think that's an important point that you've made there, and let me actually take that across to Ambassador Vishnu Prakash. Ambassador, the fact of the matter that the Chinese have so far not put out a casualty count. If they've suffered any casualties, they've neither confirmed it nor have they denied it. What do you read in this Chinese silence?
As a dominant power, the Middle Kingdom can never do anything wrong. That is the projection and the perception that has to be fostered. And even during Doklam, the narrative that was given to the people back home in China was very different. So for them to put out a version which shows China in a bright light, in a good light, is a political necessity. All the more so that the leadership is under somewhat of a pressure after the coronavirus crisis and the way it was handled. So I will not be surprised if the a variant is spun which suits the national interests of China. Later on, the social media, etc., can keep reporting, but that will be denied. So that is how regimes, authoritarian regimes function, which is very different from how democratic regimes function.
Absolutely, indeed. I think that's an important point that you've made there, because at this point of time, in terms of the different developments that are taking place around the world and also in the aftermath of the COVID-19 outbreak, China is indeed under the pump. There will, of course, be a lot of speculation in terms of how China will be dealing with all of this. Is this incident that is in fact unfolding at the border between India and China, is this something that China is trying to manufacture in a bit to try and deflect the attention that China has to answer for many of the questions that are being raised about how the COVID-19 pandemic in fact broke within China and then spread to the rest of the world? Professor Swaran Singh, if I can get you in on this. At this point of time, a lot of different nations are asking for answers from China. The Chinese President Xi Jinping himself is, at this point of time, not as popular as he was just about 4 months ago. Do you think he is trying to whip up nationalist pride within his own nation by creating an incident at the border with India to try to deflect the attention within his own nation away from some of the other issues that China at this point of time is embroiled in?
I think when it comes to China, we have to also distinguish between the nation and the party. It is the only situation where a party owns the nation, so his loyalties have to be first with the party cadres. And I don't think that he does not have a problem with the party cadres. Lately, several reports have been coming out of certain amount of disenchantment with how Xi Jinping has over a period of time captured power and sort of removed the limitations on terms of his staying in office. And now more recently, in terms of handling of COVID-19, there are news that there is a certain amount of disaffection on that. But whether this kind of border incident is going to help him, I'm not too sure, because as you just mentioned, the whole of the world is so angry. You see, Australia, Britain, United States have been really so vocal and at loggerheads. You saw what happened recently at World Health Assembly. 63 nations brought up the proposal for investigating what is happening in terms of Wuhan Institute of Virology. One after another, serious reports are coming out from United States. At this stage, to sort of take such a trouble with India, which has more or less been rather sort of well calibrated in not really being as vehemently anti-China as some of the other powerful nations have been, would be really miscalculation if that is the kind of thinking that he wants to really sort of ratchet up nationalism in China. I don't think that's going to be at all helpful, because this is only going to unite several other nations who are already preparing. A whole lot of parliamentarians of democracies are coming together. A whole lot of initiatives are already happening as to how to ensure the Chinese do not really push the post-COVID-19 agenda in a very, very strange direction, where a lot of the democratic values and freedom of navigation, etc., come under cloud. So this is a terrible calculation if they think ratcheting up border with India is going to help them sort of stay in power longer. That's a wrong calculation. I don't think that's a calculation. I assume it's a tactical mistake. Chinese should own up to it very soon to ensure that tempers don't rise on both sides, especially India would be really sort of not willing to accept any other explanation other than saying it is a mistake. And I think they should own up to that mistake.
Absolutely, indeed. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed to both Professor Swaran Singh and also to Ambassador Vishnu Prakash for having joined us on this broadcast and for giving us insights into what may have led to this tragic incident. This is quite clearly an incident of escalation. That is how it will be looked at. 3 Indian military personnel, one amongst whom is said to be an officer, have lost their lives in what is being described as an incident that has taken place at the Galwan Valley between the Indian and the Chinese forces. We're also given to understand that at the time this incident happened, both forces were disengaging. Was it a miscalculation? Was it an inadvertent error that led to this? At this point of time, we do not know. The Chinese, of course, have remained very quiet. They've neither confirmed nor have they denied any casualties that may have taken place on their side of the border. But India has in fact come forth. The incident took place yesterday night. 3 Indian military personnel, one among whom is said to be an officer, have lost their lives. in this particular incident that has taken place at the Galwan Valley. What exactly led to this incident, and why did it happen at a time when both sides were in fact disengaging from the standoff? Remember, the standoff has been going on for several weeks. What is quite clear is that China appears to have created an issue in terms of the line of actual control. There was a troop build-up, and there are also reports that state that the Chinese forces, the Chinese PLA, had in fact intruded to a certain extent into the Indian territory in eastern Ladakh. This is where they were challenged by the Indian forces. An eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation also took place in Doklam, but at that time, back in 2017, there was no loss of life. The situation was diffused in a peaceful manner. This was a much bigger build-up. This was much more serious than what happened in Doklam. What the Chinese tried to do was they wanted to shift the status quo. This is something that is quite abundantly clear with the scale of the troop deployment, with the building up of some of the installations that they were trying to put there. The Chinese wanted to assert their dominance in areas where India earlier had patrolled. Some people say that this is essentially a question of perception, but what is quite clear is that this was a confrontation that very quickly could escalate. Remember, the Chinese and the Indian border has been very quiet for several decades. The last time there was an incident where there was a loss of life between the Indian and Chinese troops, one will have to go back to the year 1975. For 45 years, there has been no incident where there's been a loss of life between the Indian and the Chinese border. But this is the first occasion where something of this nature has happened. Why is China resorting to these kind of pressure tactics? Why is China resorting to what can only be described as arm-twisting tactics? It is not very clear. It's up for speculation. There's a lot of anger within China, within the Communist Party, where people are not very happy with the leadership of President Xi Jinping. There are also questions that are being raised about how efficiently the Communist Party has been successful, and how successful Xi Jinping has been in containing the COVID-19 outbreak. All of these are questions that the gentleman that you're looking at on your screens, President Xi Jinping, has to answer. 4 months ago, the situation was very different. There's a huge economic problem that the country is also going to confront in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. China, which relies for its economy on exporting the goods that it manufactures, would have had serious problems sending across its goods in borders where some nations would have wanted to put up tariff walls. So there was an economic problem also that perhaps Xi Jinping would have confronted in the next few weeks and months. Is the incident at the India-China border a deflection to deflect and divert the attention of the people within China and to in fact get the Chinese people to rally behind their president? Is that what is being attempted? Is all of this is in the realm of speculation? But this quite clearly will be viewed as an incident of escalation. For the first time in almost about 45 years, there's been a loss of life in a standoff between India and China. All right, now to give us more perspective on this, we are joined by Atul Aneja. He's a strategic affairs editor. He's going to be joining us on this broadcast. I'm also told that we are joined by Brahma Chalani, who's a professor of strategic studies at the Center for Policy and Research. He's joining us live from New Delhi. And we're also joined in by political and economic commentator Einar Tangen, who's joining us from Beijing. And Einar, let me begin with you on this. The fact of the matter is that this standoff between India and China had been going on for several weeks. It had remained by and large, if we are to go by the media reports, there was no violent incident that had taken place. But yesterday night, there was a face-off, and in this incident, India has come forth and confirmed that 3 Indian military personnel have lost their lives. What do you think the Chinese are up to?
Well, I don't know that they're up to anything. They believe that they're retaliating. Now, keep in mind, there has been no official confirmation from the Chinese side as to any deaths or any incident on the line of actual control. The Indian Army has stated that 3 people have lost their life, that no guns were used, and that there were probably, they believe that there were casualties on the Chinese side. Whatever happened, one side provoked it and the other one responded. We don't know at this point. You can speculate.
Right.
You can try to say that this is some sort of cover-up, but the fact is we don't know.
Does the Chinese silence in terms of either confirming or denying any casualties on the Chinese side, does that surprise you?
Not really. I mean, Beijing tends to be very cautious on this. In this kind of situation, I think they were the ones who asked for a meeting to prevent this from getting further out of control. The generals are meeting. The Indian Army says that they have commanders on site and that they are trying to continue this process of de-escalation. I think at this point, though, it's probable that it'll be necessary for a much higher level, at the political level, not just the military, in order to resolve this. The loss of life is serious. It doesn't matter if it's India or Chinese or who provoked it. It's needless.
Absolutely, indeed. It is needless. And this, of course, we hope is how this is going to be resolved from here on, that there will be no further such incidents as to what has happened yesterday night. And Atul Adeja, if I can bring you in on this, for the first time in several decades, there's been a loss of life in an incident between India and China. How do you read this escalation at a time when disengagement talks were underway between the two nations?
All I can say is that extremely unfortunate that there has been a loss of life. And I think there is a need not only for a dialogue at the military level, which has been ongoing, but this has to escalate quickly so that this incident doesn't lead to anything further. By escalation, I mean the dialogue has to go further up now. I do think that the diplomats have to get in. They would probably already have been in touch, but I think it has to be raised to the foreign minister's level, if not higher. Because this is exceptionally serious. We are 2 nuclear powers, and further escalation can be devastating, not only bilaterally, but that in the India-China context, but for the region and probably for the world. So this has to be diffused right now. And for that, we need to get the facts right first and see how we get back from there. But it has to go at a higher level immediately.
But at this point of time, what do you think has happened? Was this some kind of an inadvertent error that has led to this particular incident, or was there something tactical that was attempted that seems to have gone completely awry?
It could be anything, because there's no data coming, except that there was no use of firearms. That's what the Indian Army statement is. So which means that there has been no use of firearms. Then what were the cause of the death? This is purely in the realm of speculation. I think we need hard information on this, exactly what happened, what caused the deaths, before we can go further and analyze it.
That is true. At this point of time, all of this is still in the realm of speculation. What we can confirm for a fact is that 3 Indian military personnel, including 1 officer, have lost their lives in this incident. There are reports that there may be casualties that may have taken place on the Chinese side as well. But the Chinese have, at this point of time, neither confirmed nor denied this. Now, Einar, if I can bring you in on this, this is a standoff that's been going on for several weeks. And according to reports that have come in, what is quite clear is that the Chinese forces have in fact come in and set up encampments in territory that earlier was quite clearly patrolled by the Indian forces. What is China looking to gain by all of this?
Well, it's not exactly clear that the Chinese feel the same way. They believe that they are simply reacting. Now, we're talking about a tale of 2 roads, one built by the Chinese, one built by India. Within the last few days, India announced that they were airlifting heavy equipment into remote areas so they could continue building. I don't know that was part of the escalation. I just know that these roads are extremely sensitive, not only to China, but also Nepal, and that these are the source of the tension. Both sides believe that the other is trying to steal a march on them, that they're entitled to kind of beef up their logistics. And unfortunately, this is leading to higher tensions and this situation. I would correct one thing. There were 2 incidents involving rocks and sticks on iron bars, from what I understand from both the Indian and Chinese side, were used in a face-off on two separate occasions earlier. Right. So there could be in this a kind of retaliation. Remember, these are young soldiers. They have a lot of pride. They don't want to be pushed around. If they feel that the other side has done something, they want to push back. It's the nature of young men in this kind of situation. So let's withhold judgment till we know the full story, and then we can discuss what the ramifications will be.
That is true. When you say that these are young men, what is interesting is that these are also young men who belong to two very professional armies. Do you think that this is something that could have happened at a low level, or do you think that this is something that's actually happened by instructions from up above?
Doubtful that it would happen from instructions of up above. This is not the time for Xi Jinping or Modi to be engaging in this kind of theatrics. Both countries have to concentrate on their internal situations, both in terms of health, COVID-19. India is undergoing painful adjustment to this, and then the following economic ones. Right. I don't believe that either side would engage in any kind of attempt to change the public's opinion or get them going in a different direction. I think would be very cynical. Right. Certainly not from the Chinese side. If that were the case, they would be already in full-throated cry, claiming that India was at fault and that this was an aggressive move. Since they haven't done that, obviously they weren't prepared for this.
All right, do continue to stay on with this. Meanwhile, this is the statement that's been issued by the Indian Army, where they've said, and I quote them here, during the de-escalation process underway in the Galwan Valley, a violent face-off took place yesterday night with casualties on both sides. The loss of lives on the Indian side includes an officer and two soldiers. Senior military officials of the two sides are currently meeting at the venue to defuse the situation. This is the statement that's been put out by the Indian Army, where they say the incident took place during the de-escalation process that is presently underway in the Galwan Valley. Violent face-off took place yesterday night with casualty on both sides. So the statement by the Indian Army is pretty categorical in terms of when the incident took place, the casualties involved in this incident. Now, Atul, the fact that the Chinese have neither confirmed nor denied any casualties, would you like to weigh in on this? Is this normal Chinese behavior, or are the Chinese hiding something?
No, I think this is normal Chinese behavior, because the Chinese do understand the ramifications of a further escalation. So I think they're going to be very careful before they comment on this. And so this is completely from the Chinese playbook. I would also like to comment on the Indian Army statement, especially the point that during the de-escalation phase, now which means that the de-escalation is underway, it's going on. So it's not an escalatory thing. It happened during the context of de-escalation. I think that's very important that we don't lose sight. The Indian Army statement is a pointer, I think, right, that process of de-escalation has still now not stopped. And this is an incident which took place within the framework of de-escalation. So it's a very sober and a measured statement, and is not inflammatory in any way or escalates the situation. I think that's something which the Indian Army has to be commended. And I do hope that the Chinese also come out with something similar, and action on the ground which diffuses this crisis, which neither side can afford to escalate. And go beyond what we have already witnessed.
Absolutely, indeed. And we are given to understand that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be briefing the Prime Minister on this present issue in some time from now. But Atul, if I can also ask you to weigh in a bit more in terms of how the Chinese have been looking at this standoff altogether. They say that it's a question of perception about where the LAC, the line of actual control, actually runs. In terms of what they claim, they say that they have not intruded into any territory. But the fact of the matter is, the place where the build-up has happened was territory that Indian forces used to patrol. This idea that the Chinese have not intruded into the Indian territory, what do you make of it?
Well, there are two levels I would like to treat this. One is at the tactical level, on the ground. I think that's related to the road construction to DSDBO, the DSDBO road, that's a Daulat Beg Oldi road. So the Chinese are clearly obstructing that particular road. I believe there's a bridge which was being built close to the Galwan River. The Galwan and the Shyok meet at a point, and the bridge was being constructed there, as I understand. Mm-hmm. So at a tactical level, there is a clear obstruction to that by coming in closer to that area and the DSDBO road. So that's at one level. I think there is another layer to it, and that goes back to the time when I was in Beijing, which was the Chinese response to the Article 370, which was where the Chinese Foreign Ministry at that time had said that this was unacceptable. Mm-hmm. And I also recall that soon after that, not soon after, that is August, so in October before the Chennai summit, the Pakistanis also were involved in the sense we had Imran Khan, we had General Bajwa, and we had the ISI chief meeting the Chinese, including President Xi Jinping.
Right.
I thought that that discussion, conversation was also important and gets linked to what's happened now, that the Chinese have been upset by the change of status quo on account of Article 370. And that's the political input which gets fed into something very tactical which is happening on the ground. So I think it has to be seen at two levels, the Chinese behavior. How would this be resolved? Maybe it's appointed that we might need a broader dialogue beyond the military dialogue and a political dialogue, where I would assume that reversal of Article 370, as some media in China have been saying, or in Pakistan definitely, is out of the window. The Indian side will not. It's not possible that they'll backtrack from that. But I think. Right. There is also CPEC element which is getting into the projects going to Baltistan and Gilgit-Baltistan, where Chinese have put in a lot of money. And I think there would be some assurances probably from a Chinese side that their investments remain safe on the Pakistani side. I think so the dialogue will get broadened out before we get a resolution to it.
Absolutely indeed. Now, all of these things are issues that a lot of people will speculate upon. These could be some of the motives as to why China has, at this point of time, try to increase the temperature at the border between India and China. Now, Einar, a lot of people are asking about, why would China at this point of time, at the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the rest of the world is busy in trying to overcome this viral infection that is spread through the world, why would China want an escalation with India? Is this an attempt in some ways to deflect attention away from some of the shortcomings within China, where there's been a lot of criticism in terms of how the COVID-19 pandemic was handled within China? Is that what is being attempted to be deflected away from?
Well, I think you're wrong in assuming that there's a lot of criticism of the government in China. Quite frankly, the Chinese people are looking at the scorecard around the world. Take the United States, for instance, 4.5% of the world's population, over 30% of the world's fatalities from COVID-19. And they compare that to what the government has done within China. I don't think there's anybody here who believes that China, except for a few hardcore dissidents, believes that China has been somehow remiss in the way that it's gone about its business in handling this. The economic issues are still on the table.
But there is a lot of economic pain that is actually that is to be foreseen, because China's economy relies on exporting the goods that it manufactures. But with tariff walls going up, with a lot of anti-China sentiment because of the COVID-19 pandemic, China may not have the markets that it earlier had to export its goods to, and therefore to deflect attention away from those issues, heating up the border between India and China might whip up a lot of nationalist sentiment to back the president. Is that what is being attempted here?
No, that isn't. China's every year now, the amount of export trade has diminished. It's now 17.4% in 2019 of the total GDP. And if you start looking